What's up, everybody? All right, this is going to be an emotional video, so bear with me because I gotta get the ball moving here. And at first I wasn't gonna say anything. I wasn't gonna respond because I didn't want to get involved in this petty game. But this video is about Mark, and if you're watching this, which maybe you'll watch a little bit, I kind of doubt it considering you blocked me on Facebook and how you handled me asking if you wanted to be interviewed was by responding with a video saying that you'll never do a video with me again. So you're really confusing to work with. It just doesn't really match things. But unfortunately, I learned something today, and that's that I still care a lot about Mark. And this is something that I've really internally struggled with because I really care about this individual that just openly talks shit about me regularly whenever I come up, right? And I'm not saying that's regular at all. I'm pretty sure our YouTube channels have deviated. We have our own different things going on, and that's great and how it should be, really. But my point is that, like, I gotta talk about this. I gotta respond because I hated myself for a long time for still caring about Mark, despite the fact that he constantly shits on me, right? But I now understand that that is just the way it is. And I'm going to share with you guys absolutely everything that I have ever learned from Marcus Augustine. I lived with him for a period of time when I participated in an event that he hosted called Grind Camp, right? And I didn't so much learn these things like he taught them. He was there and like they were observations that any of the participants at Grind Camp or Grind Space or anyone who went there could have made and learned from, right? And there's tons of this kind of stuff, tons. And that's kind of why I'm so torn, because my time with Mark kind of represents when I was able to leave my like daily monotonous life behind and start spending every hour of every day doing exactly what I felt was best for me. And that was amazing, right? Mark didn't give that to me. He played a role, and he played a really important role. And so now I'm gonna share everything that I learned from him, separate personal stuff aside. Okay, so number one is that at any given moment, you listening to this could just fuck off to a different country, and it may make your life much, 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 much better. The problem is that so few of us are willing to just throw ourselves into a place where the cost of living is cheaper and there's internet access and laws are really lax and it's really casual, right? Most of us, especially if we've been raised in Western society, you know, we feel a little protected, but the reality is we're often safer and in more control in a place like that because we have access to money, right? And that's amazing and incredibly useful. You can move to a foreign country and double, triple, or quadruple your income by doing so. You can literally exist for cheaper in these other countries, right? So that was the first main thing I learned. The second main thing I learned is about YouTube. And when it comes to earning money from a YouTube channel, you have to have a product. That is critical. Like Mark, for example, has a $150 monthly product. Imagine that. Now imagine there's like 200 people. 200 is not that much. Who are supplying that? That is enough money that you can be set, live a long life, provide for your family, and now start playing with all the other ways that you can earn money once you have money, right? So that's a really important distinction. These are a lot of little things that are like, oh, wow. Okay, YouTube channel and product, because YouTube channel creates the traffic, it creates the audience, it's essentially creating a brand for yourself, right? Like in my case, I do it as myself, as my personality, so people know me. That's a brand, you know? It's kind of different than a brand because I'm just being me, but it's still a brand, you know? So that's the thing, YouTube and a product. If you have a proper YouTube channel creating regular content and you have a product, you can earn huge amounts of money. We're talking like $10,000 to $30,000 a month off of less than 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers. That is absolutely doable and very fascinating because a lot of YouTubers are really frustrated about ad revenue and that kind of thing. But because I went into this scene learning about these things and seeing it from this perspective, it's like, wow, ad revenue is really just kind of like on the side. That's like a little bit of side income or like not having to pay for gas for a month or something. It really isn't the sole focus of a YouTuber. And YouTube as a scene has changed so much and, since it existed, right? There was a point where you could make money just posting videos that got views because YouTube actually cared about views, right? Whereas nowadays, completely different story. But okay, that's that. Next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about is the effect that money has on your personality. Because this is something that I have never heard anybody really go into detail about. But if you come into a lot of money and you haven't well-rounded your personality, you haven't learned to be respectful to people, you haven't learned to understand what other people go through and what they're feeling, to really get them, to ask them questions, to put your preconceptions aside, if you haven't learned to do that, and you come into money, your life, you're gonna be rich, that's cool, right? That's great. But you're gonna be plagued by problems with people. And that was incredibly evident interacting with Marcus Augustine. Mark is surrounded by individuals who need him in order to have money to do their jobs and live their lives and support their families, right? And that can be good in some situations, but this has some very interesting effects on the psychology of the individual who's providing, right? Because Mark himself told me that he struggled with the fact that he feels like people aren't themselves to him and that they're fake to him because they don't want to piss him off. They want to make sure that he's like, they kiss ass, I guess well, that's what Mark said. I'm just trying to make it more understandable, right? And so that's something that he struggled with. Like, he told me himself that that's something that he didn't like. And at one point, he told that to me. He was like, that is why I want you around, right? Yeah, I don't know whatever happened to that fucking thought. That's way gone by now. But the point is that if you can filter out a lot of the bullshit on Mark's channel, which is funny because it's no bullshit. And it is no bullshit, but of a different kind. Like, he's straight up most of the time. But there's a lot of bullshit and swearing and unnecessary words and distractions and a smaller portion of each video is about teaching you a specific subject, right? So what I'm trying to do here is just forget all of the negative crap I went through over these past year experience. Because I left for Nicaragua a year ago, like a year and a month ago, right? So it's like, whoa, a lot of time has passed. And I went through some crazy emotions, really dark points at certain parts, and everything's good. I learned crazy, amazing things. But I don't think that these things are necessarily obvious to anybody, nor have I really talked too much about them. So I want to make sure to keep sharing with you guys these things that I really learned from my time mostly around Mark, okay? The next thing, well, did I finish that last one? Okay, I didn't really get too far into why earning money can fuck you sometimes. Like, let's make a comparison to drug addiction. Okay, so I know some people who abuse, like, we're not talking about like meth or heroin or that kind of thing. Talk about amphetamines. People who abuse amphetamines and are in business. That's a very much a scene of like business people who go out, drink, do coke, that kind of thing. And also they get really riled up, That is very much a scene. And this is an interesting circumstance because when an individual like this comes into business success, the chance of them maintaining that success isn't very likely. And I'm not by any means saying that Mark is an individual like this. I'm just making an example here that money coming into your life isn't always a good thing. It's very important that you understand that, especially if you're somebody who feels like you don't have much money, because some of the worst things that humans have been done under this weird vibe where you get into money in the wrong time. And then the reality is you don't actually understand the life balance necessary to maintain it, right? So there's going to be some incredibly reckless decisions made during this period of time afterwards where you don't really understand what originally worked and that kind of thing, right? But I'm getting too abstract because I really don't want to come off as saying that Mark is like that, because he's not. he is affected by the psychology of somebody who's surrounded by people who constantly will do what he says and won't talk back to him. Or at least there are individuals who will talk back to them who he respects, right? And that's kind of how he respects. That's the thing. You have to put up with the bullshit and just be like, whatever, that's just what you say about stuff normally. You're just like, yeah, it exists. It's bullshit. Yeah, okay. You gotta like bear that. And some of the people around him are really, really good at that. And right, that is how you get his respect, right? Is putting up with that shit. But I mean, why should anyone have to do that, you know? But it doesn't matter. I'm sure he doesn't like that. It's just how it is, you know? But enough about money. I just wanted to make sure that you understand that if you're not careful, money coming into your life can greatly complicate things. And just be careful, okay? Next, we're gonna get to virtual assistants, because this is another huge thing. One of the reasons that Mark is able to be so profitable and have like so many different business interests is because of the fact that he resides in a country where labor is really, really, really cheap, right? You can go to Nicaragua with like $2,000 to spend, and you could give 4 individuals straight out of college, full-time jobs. Maybe you gotta give them a raise later or something, but you could do that with $2 grand a month. 40 hours a week times 4, 160 hours a week for $2,000 to spend however you feel is worth the money, right? Imagine that. Imagine if you were just surrounded by people who you could assign tasks to, right? How many times have you thought about doing something, but then you're like, you start calculating how much work it's gonna be, and then you're like, oh, that's not really feasible. You don't even have to think that way anymore. You could just be like, oh, I'm gonna write this down, that's gonna take 1,000 iterations, all right, here, that's assigned to this person, all right, that's what you're working on, cool. Like, it's a whole new world. And that's what's really fascinating, because for me, that was my biggest takeaway from Mark, was the power of virtual assistants. In his case, he doesn't use virtual assistants, and he actually like actively shit-talks virtual assistants, right? So it's kind of ironic because, well, you know, I now understand it's not ideal to be a drop shipper. What's ideal is to have a team of virtual assistants, because then whether you're doing drop shipping or YouTube or affiliate work or you're writing or you're moderating forums and stuff, anything on a computer just becomes exponentially easier to be profitable, because you have time. You have the fact that you can pay people hundreds and hundreds of hours for very little work and still be providing for them, right? That was another, like, a takeaway, not from Marcus, but from my time in Nicaragua, is like, I used to think like, oh, $2, $3 an hour, that's immoral, I'm never gonna do that, that's fucked up, right? But geez, I lived there, and I now understand, like, damn, if you earn $5 an hour, and you work full-time, wow, like, geez, you earn $10 an hour, and you work part-time? Like, you're really wealthy. Like, holy crap, in a country like that, right? And the quality of life that you can have access to is pretty crazy. And it's a really interesting process, right? Because the act of being in this country makes it easier for you to exist, but when it comes to the local people, like, they can't do that because they don't have that US business identity. The ability to earn dollars online is absolutely mind-blowingly powerful. And you can do so many things with that if you're smart with it, even if you're not earning that much money. And it's crazy, like absolutely crazy for any of you who think that you can earn money online, or you doubt it, or like when people get into drop shipping and they're like, you know, is this possible? Like, you know, like, does anyone actually earn full-time money from this? Like, thoughts like that are just, you need to look at the world and just be like, all right, anything I want to do, there are a fuckload of people already doing that. And I just got to figure out what they're already doing and keep applying myself and keep trying new things, because it's not a matter of if you can do it, if you can't do it, or if it's not possible. It's just a matter of, are you going to take the steps necessary to make it happen? That's what's really important. And ultimately, that's the takeaway. The biggest takeaway for me was virtual assistants. Huge, huge, huge thing. And it's sad because a lot of drop shippers are like, oh, they'll never get into virtual assistants just because like it's intimidating training somebody and that kind of thing. So, oh well, guess you're missing out on the bigger opportunity that there is right now. All right, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.